Dear students, continuing with our lectures on organic reaction mechanism, this is our 23rd lecture on ORM, and this is the second part of methods of determining reaction mechanism. In the first part of the lecture, we have discussed product analysis and study of intermediates, including how the mechanism is affected in terms of intermediates versus transition states, and that lecture you can have at this link on the YouTube. In the present lecture, we will be discussing these remaining methods for determination of organic reaction mechanism, and among these remaining methods, the first one is crossover experiments. So first we will be discussing about crossover experiments. Now if you remember that any rearrangement, we have done rearrangement reactions also. Any rearrangement, whether that rearrangement is intermolecular in nature or intramolecular in nature, that can be proved from crossover experiments. So what happens is that in case of crossover experiment, the reaction is carried out with a mixture of two similar but non-identical reactants, where the behavior of these non-identical reactants will be same chemically. Now after the completion of the reaction, the products, they are analyzed, and if the product formed is a crossover product, that is, the product will be formed which is containing fragments of both the reactants which we have used, these non-identical reactants. So if such a product is formed, then that product is called as crossover product. And if during a rearrangement reaction the crossover products, they are formed, that means the reaction or the rearrangement is an intermolecular rearrangement. But if there are no crossover products, they are formed during the reaction, then the rearrangement will be an intramolecular rearrangement. So this whole process of crossover experiments, then that can be explained on the basis of different examples. The most common example is the Claisen rearrangement. You know, the Claisen rearrangement is conversion of an allyl phenyl ether into allyl alcohol. So for example, if we use these two similar but non-identical reactants, these are allyl phenyl ethers, and if you see these two reactants, only difference is that here you are having a methyl group, whereas here you are having a phenyl group. This is the only difference between these two reactants. So basically this group is to migrate from this position to the para position. Similarly, this group is to migrate from this position to the para position in Claisen rearrangement reaction, to give us these types of allyl alcohols or phenols, allyl phenols as the product. Now when this reaction is done, we can see that there are only two products which are formed, that this reactant will give us this product where we are having this methyl group, whereas this reactant is giving us this product where we are having this phenyl group. So that means you can conclude that here in this reaction each reactant is giving its own product only and no crossover product is being formed. So because of that, because in this rearrangement no crossover product has been formed from these two non-identical but similar reactants, that means the Claisen rearrangement is an intramolecular rearrangement. So on the basis of crossover experiments, we can prove the mechanism of this rearrangement, that this rearrangement is an intramolecular rearrangement. So another example is Fry's rearrangement, and when these two reactants they were used under conditions of Fry's rearrangement, it has been found that in addition to the normal products, that this reactant and this reactant, they are similar but non-identical. Only difference is that here the hydrogen present has been replaced by the halogen atom. All other parts are same, and this ketone is having phenyl and this is having methyl. So basically this group is to migrate at the ortho position. Acyl migration will take place from here to here, similarly from here to here, and we will get the rearranged products, and this will give us this product. This is the normal product, and this will give us this product, which is a normal product. But in addition to the normal products, here in this case we are also getting the crossover products. Crossover product means that this part of the molecule gets attached to this molecule and we are getting this as the product, and this part of the molecule is getting attached to this position and we are getting this as the product. So basically in addition to normal products we are also getting crossover products, and formation of crossover products proves that Fry's rearrangement is an intermolecular process and it involves more than one step, that is two steps they are involved. In the first step this group or this group will break from here, and then in the second step that will join the orthocarbon of the ring. Then another example is isomerization of allyl sulfides under UV light in presence of light. So when allyl sulfides they undergo isomerization in presence of light, then either it can take place by 1,3 sigma tropic rearrangement, which is an intramolecular rearrangement, or it can take place by free radical mechanism, and free radical mechanism may involve an intramolecular rearrangement or intermolecular rearrangement. But when this reaction is done, say we are having these similar but non-identical allyl sulfides, so only difference is, if you see this, that these are the phenyl groups whereas these two are the toluyl groups. So only thing is one hydrogen at this para position and one hydrogen at this para position, they have been replaced by methyl group. So when these allyl sulfides they undergo UV irradiation under photochemical conditions, then isomerization of this group will take place. This group will go to this carbon and this double bond will come to this position, and isomeric sulfides they will be formed. So if a normal product is to form, one product will be when this group moves to this position, this goes to this place, and we will get this type of product. Similarly, normal product in this case is that this group will move from here to here, this bond will move to this position, and we will get this type of allyl sulfide by isomerization. And these two, they are the normal products. And when this reaction was performed, it has been seen that in addition to these normal products, crossover products, they are also formed. That is, the movement of this group at this position, and this goes to the other molecule, that is one toluyl and one phenyl at this place, whereas in this case this group, instead of getting attached to this group gets attached to this position. So a crossover product of these two types of crossover products, they are formed in this reaction. And as the reaction is giving us the crossover products, that means the rearrangement is an intermolecular rearrangement because of the formation of crossover products. That means it is not possible that the isomerization of allyl sulfide can undergo 1,3 sigma tropic rearrangement, because that rearrangement, if that will happen, this should be a intramolecular rearrangement. Similarly, in free radical mechanism also there is a possibility of only intermolecular rearrangement, not of the intramolecular rearrangement, because of the formation of these crossover products. So this again proves that the isomerization of allyl sulfides is also an intermolecular rearrangement and not intramolecular rearrangement. Then is isotopic labeling. Isotopic labeling is a special method and these are adopted for introducing an isotope in a particular position of a molecule. Now this stable isotope of carbon is C13, hydrogen we know is deuterium or tritium, nitrogen is N15, oxygen is O18. Then the radioactive isotopes of carbon, this is C14 also, then tritium is H3, sulfur 35, iodine 128 and 131. Similarly, bromine 82. So all these, they can be introduced in the molecule where the reaction mechanism is to be studied. And most common example is the study of hydrolysis of esters on the basis of these isotopic labeling studies. So if we know the basic reaction of hydrolysis of an carboxylic ester, so there are two possibilities on hydrolysis of a carboxylic ester. Either this oxygen alkyl fission of the bond can take place, alkyl oxygen bond fission can take place, or this acyl oxygen bond breaking can take place to give us these two products, carboxylic acids and alcohols. So what we do is that if we use any ester and for hydrolysis we use O18 water, and it has been found that the O18 atom is present in the carboxylic acid rather than the alcohol. And because the O18 oxygen is present in the carboxylic acid, and that means in case of hydrolysis of carboxylic acid, the acyl oxygen bond breaks during the course of the reaction. because if this bond will break, then O18 will get attached to this and this should be present in the alcohol, but because O18 is present in the carboxylic acid, that means acyl oxygen bond will break during hydrolysis of a carboxylic acid. So this is how, on the basis of using isotopically labeled atoms, we can deduce the mechanism of any reaction. Then another example of using isotopic labeling experiments is Cannizzaro reaction. Cannizzaro reaction, we know that two molecules of benzaldehyde, they react under basic conditions to give us one molecule of benzoic acid and one molecule of benzyl alcohol. Now if instead of hydrogen we here use deuterium, then it has been found that both the deuterium atoms, they are present in the benzyl alcohol. So on the basis of this, this mechanism can be proved for Cannizzaro reaction. So in the first step, the base will attack this electrophilic carbon of the benzaldehyde to give us this type of intermediate, and then this hydride will shift from one molecule, one benzaldehyde molecule to the other benzaldehyde molecule, and we will get these types of intermediates which will be further converted into benzoic acid and benzyl alcohol. So similarly, if we will replace this hydrogen by deuterium, that means both the hydrogens, they will be replaced by deuterium. So on the basis of these isotopic labeling studies, we can prove that mechanism of the Cannizzaro reaction is like this. Then another example is Claisen rearrangement. We have seen previously that allyl ethers, they get converted into allyl phenols as the products when heated at high temperature. Now when this movement of allyl group takes place from this oxygen to this carbon, whether this alpha carbon attached gets attached to this position or this gamma carbon gets attached to this position, that can be proved that if we use this carbon as C14 carbon. Say in the reactant molecule, the gamma carbon is our C14 carbon. Now when this is heated at high temperature, this will undergo Claisen rearrangement to give us this product, and this product when oxidized with the potassium permanganate, water under basic conditions followed by para-iodic acid oxidation, we get these two products, this aldehyde and a formaldehyde. And it has been found that the carbon which is present in the formaldehyde is not having C14 carbon, whereas this carbon is having C14 carbon. So this confirms that in case of allyl chain, inversion of the allyl group takes place, that the carbon which is attached to oxygen, the opposite carbon gets attached to the carbon, not the alpha carbon, but the gamma carbon gets attached to the ortho carbon of the allyl phenyl ether. So on the basis of these isotopically labeled C14, we can confirm the mechanism of this Claisen rearrangement. Then another very important use of isotopic labeling experiments is discovery and formation of benzene during nucleophilic aromatic substitution reactions. So when chlorobenzene is reacted with sodamide in liquid ammonia, we know that anilines, they are formed as the product. Now if aniline is formed as the product, that means simply if we see the structure of the molecule, reactant molecule, that means this halogen group is replaced by amino group. But when isotopically labeled labeling experiments, they have been used, that if this carbon is the C14 carbon to which this halogen is attached, and in the first step when amide will eliminate this hydrogen and this symmetrical benzene intermediate is formed, where one carbon is C14 carbon, other carbon is C12 carbon, and that means now there are two possibilities of substitution of amide group, either to this carbon or to this carbon. If the reaction follows path A, that is this attacks this C14 carbon, then we will get the aniline where amino group is attached to the carbon which is C14. Whereas if it follows path B, then we will get aniline where the amino group is attached to the C12 carbon. So on the basis of this, when experiment was done, it was found that 50% of the product is formed with this type of aniline and 50% of the product is formed with this type of aniline. So formation of equal amounts of these products indicates that there must be a formation of this type of symmetrical intermediate, only then these two products they are possible. So on the basis of these isotopically labeling experiments, we can prove the mechanism of these types of nucleophilic aromatic substitution reactions which involve benzene, and this type of mechanism we know is known as benzene mechanism. Then next is kinetic isotope effects. In isotopic labeling experiments, we always assume that chemical behavior of different isotopes is same, but however in actual the isotopes they are not exactly identical, and the rate at which the chemical reaction take place they may vary with the type of isotopes which we use. And this variation of rate of a chemical reaction due to the presence of different isotopes in the molecule is called as kinetic isotopic effect. And the ratio of the rate constant for the reactions involving light or heavy isotopically substituted reactants is given by this, that KL is the rate for the light isotope, whereas KH is the rate for heavy isotope. And depending upon the value of this ratio, we will see that the different compounds they show primary kinetic isotopic effects or secondary kinetic isotopic effect. So in cases where this ratio is much more than 1, if the value of this ratio is more than 1, then we say that primary kinetic isotopic effects they come into play, whereas if it is less than or equal to 1, then we say secondary kinetic isotopic effects they are taking place. And for example, if we are having say this reaction, the methyl bromide undergoes aliphatic nucleophilic substitution reaction with cyanide ions, and if we are using C12 carbon or C13 carbon, then rate of these two reactions is different, and the rate of this reaction is more in comparison to rate of this reaction, and the ratio is 1.082. so that means here we will be having kinetic isotopic effects, they will be coming into play. Now few examples of such type of isotopic effect. The primary kinetic isotopic effect will be found when a bond to the isotopically labeled atom is being formed or broken. So if, for example, if we are using say carbon hydrogen bond or carbon deuterium bond, and if we compare the ratio of these two, then if the rate determining step is involving the breaking of this bond, carbon hydrogen or carbon deuterium bond, only then these kinetic isotopic effects they will come into play, and such effects will be known as primary kinetic isotopic effect when there is a bond breaking or bond formation with respect to isotopically labeled atom, and this step is a rate determining step. So only then the primary kinetic isotopic effect will be there if that step which is involving breaking or forming of a bond is a slow step or the rate determining step. So this effect will be greatest on replacing a hydrogen atom by deuterium or tritium, and the ratio rate ratio is expressed in these terms, that rate constant for breaking of carbon hydrogen bond or rate constant for breaking of carbon deuterium bond, or rate constant for breaking carbon hydrogen bond or carbon tritium bond. So we can express the rate ratio in these terms, and the value of this ratio is always greater than 1 in case of primary kinetic isotopic effects, which indicates that compounds containing hydrogen, they react faster than the compounds which contain deuterium or tritium. And this ratio in cases of hydrogen to deuterium is typical value is about 7, whereas in case of hydrogen to tritium the typical value is about 16. So these are the experimental value which have been obtained for breaking or formation of either carbon hydrogen bond or carbon deuterium bond, or here carbon hydrogen bond or carbon tritium bond. So this value of this ratio is 7 in this case and 16 in this case. So we will take one example. If isopropyl bromide is reacted with ethoxide ion, we will get this type of elimination reaction to give us propene as the product. And if these two methyl groups they are replaced by deuterated methyl groups, then same reaction will take place with the deuterated products. And when the rate of reaction is studied, the rate of reaction of this reaction is, if it is 1, then value of rate of reaction in this case is 0.15, and ratio of KH to KD when calculated it comes out to be about 6.67. So because this is around 7, so that means, or we say when it is more than 1, then primary kinetic isotopic effects they come into play. So that means in these reactions, as the value is around 7, that is precisely it is 6.67, so that means this reaction will show primary kinetic isotope effect. Then on the basis of this we can tell about the mechanism of the reaction also. So when primary kinetic isotopic effect is there, because if we compare the strength of carbon deuterium bond and carbon hydrogen bond, the strength of this bond is higher as compared to strength of this bond. So that is why in the rate determining step, if either this bond is broken or this bond is broken, so because of the greater bond dissociation energy of this bond in comparison to this bond, the rate of this reaction will be higher as compared to rate of breaking of this bond. So that is why if we see this mechanism here, this is the slowest step, that means rate determining step, and in the rate determining step the carbon halogen bond is being broken and we are getting this carbocation as the intermediate, and faster reaction is removal of this hydrogen by the base ethoxide ion to give us the product. Whereas in the second case, in the first step the ethoxide ion will move this hydrogen, that means this carbon hydrogen bond will break in the first step, which is a slow step, and we will get this type of intermediate which will be quickly converted into this product. Now because we have seen that the value for this reaction in the previous case was 6.67, the ratio of breaking of this bond. That means because the rate of the reaction of normal isopropyl bromide and deuterated isopropyl bromide is involving primary kinetic isotopic effect, that means the breaking of this carbon hydrogen bond will be the slowest step or rate determining step, whereas in this case this is not the rate determining step. So because of the kinetic primary kinetic isotope effect, this mechanism is the correct mechanism and the reaction will not take place by this mechanism. So on the basis of these primary kinetic isotope effects, we can determine the mechanism of that reaction. Then secondary kinetic isotope effect is observed when no bond to the isotopically labeled atom in the reactant is broken and formed. So that means the isotopically labeled atoms they will not be involved in breaking or formation of the bond. Then such type of effects that they will be called as secondary kinetic isotopic effect. And on the basis of these effects we can differentiate between SN1 and SN2 type of reactions, that is unimolecular nucleophilic substitution reactions or bimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction. So when ratio of these reactions, the kinetic isotope ratio is determined for these reaction. In case of SN1 reaction, the value comes out to be more than 1, whereas in case of SN2 reaction it comes out to be either 1 or less than 1. So that means here the kinetic isotopic effects, they are involved in SN1 reaction, whereas they are not coming into play in case of SN2 type of reaction. So on the basis of the value of this ratio, we can tell that what will be the mechanism of these types of reactions. Then another reaction is nitration of benzene. We know the nitration of benzene is an electrophilic aromatic substitution reaction, and the reaction will take place like this, that this is the slowest step, and this will lead to the formation of this type of complex, and then the fission of this carbon hydrogen bond will take place in a faster step to give us nitrobenzene as the product. Now if we compare the reaction of benzene, deuterated benzene and tritiated benzene, it has been found that the rate of reaction in all these three reactants is same in case of nitration of benzene or deuterated benzene or tritiated benzene. Because the rate of reaction is same for all the cases, that means the breaking of this bond, carbon hydrogen bond or carbon deuterium bond or carbon tritium bond, that should not be the rate determining step, because if this is the rate determining step, then the rate of these reactions will be different for differently substituted isotopes. But because when experimentally these reactions have been done, the rate is same for all the three substrate, which indicates that breaking of this bond is not the rate determining step in electrophilic aromatic substitution. So that is why this mechanism is proved, because we can see over here the first step is the rate determining step, where the electrophile gets attached to the aromatic ring and removal of hydrogen takes place in a faster manner. So that is why the nitration of benzene does not show any kinetic isotopic effects. So thank you very much. This completes the methods for determination of organic reaction mechanism. Thank you.